Everyone. This is the wrap-up meeting for Apollo Contributor Week, which we started, I guess, right about a week ago. I think it went pretty well. I looked at the number of issues that we had open before the week and the number of issues open after the week, and then also the number of pull requests. And so I think just in this week, we went from 62 open pull requests to 89 open pull requests after, and we went from, I think, 2,448 to 2,491 closed pull requests. So that means in that week we closed 43 pull requests, and there were also 27 more open pull requests. And the number of issues we had, I think before the week there were 534 open issues. Now there are 587. And we had closed issues. We had 1,692, and now we have 1,735. So looks like we have, I think during this week, it seems we closed 43 issues, but there are also 53 new issues that were open, ones that we already had before. So I compared this to a normal week, and it's not a huge amount more, but it's somewhat more. So for example, a number of issues that usually get opened during a week are around 20 to 30, and this week we were at 53. And the number of issues that we usually close is also around 20 to 30, so we kind of stay level. This week it was 43, so that kind of shows that there was a fair amount more activity. And I think you probably also noticed this, I know the four of you on the repositories that you were watching, that there were a bunch of people that showed up who hadn't been there a long time. And I think I'm especially happy about the number of pull requests that were made to the Meteor integration. But we're going to have Xavier talk about that, I think, in a bit. But to all of those who don't really know us, I think we'll do a very quick round of introductions. So I'm Jonas. I work here at Meteor Development Group on Apollo. I work mainly on Apollo Client, but I also maintain a lot of the other open source repositories, and I kind of try to do some organizing of the contributors and just kind of the Apollo community. And today we have four, I guess, guests on this broadcast. So if you just want to briefly introduce yourselves, I'll just call you out like in the order I see you on the screen. So Daniel, do you want to go first?
Certainly. I'm Daniel Reinhardt, and I work at Philo. And we were an early adopter of the Apollo ecosystem and have a particular interest in the subscription stuff. So have been doing some pull requests and issue management in those repositories.
Nice, thanks. Hagai?
Yeah, so hi, my name is Hagai at DXX on GitHub. I am working usually around server side, GraphQL tools, recently also subscriptions. Yeah, that's it.
Cool. John?
Hey everyone, I'm John Wong. I work at Coursera on the front-end infrastructure team, and we've been working on our Apollo GraphQL integration for a while now. Last week we launched it to super users, so that was a big feat. Took a couple months to get through, but that's all live for super users for now. And then I maintain the the GraphQL tag and ESLint plugin GraphQL repos.
Nice. We also have another guest today. I think the first time he's joining us is Xavier. He'll be presenting in a minute. Xavier?
So hi everyone, I'm Xavier. I'm French, living in Paris. And so I'm a freelancer, usually developing applications with Meteor and React. And some months ago, following the news about MDG, I discovered Apollo, and I started to, with Sasha Griff, who is a well-known Meteor developer, we started to move a big open source project called Telescope to Apollo, so replacing the classic data layer of Meteor, which is DDP, with GraphQL. And with that, I started to contribute to the Meteor integration of Apollo, and this is why I'm here today.
That's great. Yeah, so what I had in mind for this wrap-up meeting was basically to give Xavier and Hagai opportunity to present briefly about the really cool pull requests that they worked on, and then I'll try to sort of give a summary of other things that happened during the week that I thought were kind of exciting and interesting, and then we'll just kind of close by looking at the swag that we're going to send out to everyone who contributed and participated. So why don't we get started with Hagai's pull request. He did a lot of work this week to sort of, I guess, make the first step for bringing things like the add live, add stream, and add defer sort of proposals into practice in GraphQL by building kind of a server or the WebSocket layer support for the server. So right now on GraphQL server we have I think 4 or even 5 or maybe even now 6 different flavors of GraphQL server. One for Express, then our Express and Connect are pretty similar. And we have one for Happy, for Koa. I think there's also now an integration for serverless, and I think some people
Lambda
request for Lambda. And now Hagai was working on a WebSocket integration, and with the WebSocket, we would be able to support things like live and defer, which would be really cool. So Hagai, do you want to present what you did this week?
Yeah, of course. All right, so basically I will start from the let's say end result, and then I will go back. So I'm sharing my screen. Can you see it?
Yeah.
All right, great. So this is a graphical interface, as you all know it. We can see my scheme. My scheme have the query which has some int, and a subscription which is essentially the clock, like the clock here on my computer, basically. So if I will run the int test, we can see that the query is working. Now the cool thing is that now also subscriptions are working. I'm not sure how you see it on the video, but here it works. Can you see the clock is running?
Yep.
That's great. All right. So yeah, basically I do have graphical which has subscriptions, and this is pretty cool. At the moment, I was working basically mostly on the server side, and after everything will be pushed and released on the server side, I will start do the work needed on Apollo client as well. So we will have a full WebSocket interface there. Now let me just change the application I'm sharing. Just a moment. Okay. Can you see it well, or I need to zoom a bit?
Maybe zoom a bit.
Yeah. Okay, now it's better.
Yeah.
All right, so basically, this is the code that was serving the graphical that we've been seeing before. So basically, there is a new entity that is called the executor, which is basically reactive executor, executor that takes a scheme and a query and is able to return an observable instead of a promise. So basically, we can see that I'm using the same pub sub and setup functions that I have before, but I need to pass the executor with them, basically. And this executor basically enables the reactive things to happen. While we can see the new integration is in use. Basically, I am creating a web server, and then I am registering a connection event, which handles through a GraphQL WebSocket, a GraphQL WS, and I'm muxing through the path that I'm getting. So because I want my graphical to be connected to WebSocket localhost, and then my endpoint, which is GraphQL, I want to make sure that the connection to the WebSocket is only accepted there. And that's it. I need to return option objects just like the rest of the integration, and it just works. So we can see my resolver basically returns the root, which is the published value. And that's it. And also, this new infrastructure supports my other package, which is GraphQL RxJS, which adds RxJS and resolver support to GraphQL. So here I can have the same clock on interval of 1000. I will just return a date, and then I will make it multicast. And then my subscription just returning the clock, and instead of giving the subscription executor, I can give the executor that I have on my package, which is GraphQL RxJS. So I just import a package and I pass it as executor, and that's it. Now my query supports observable, so this will give the same exact result as we've seen before. And that's it, basically.
That's really cool. So I saw it was working in GraphQL. So GraphQL already has support for observables, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had to implement like a WebSocket fetcher there, but yeah.
Yeah. And so how much more work would it be to implement something like, let's say, @defer?
Sorry?
So how much more work would it be to implement something like the defer decorator? So what defer does is the parts of the query that are sort of decorated with defer are executed.
I know defer. I know defer.
Yeah, I'm just explaining so everyone else will understand what it does.
Yeah, so basically now, because I have observable instead of a promise, then I will just need to add support to the defer directive by just like returning like on each resolver that I have a promise, I can wrap it with the defer. So basically, what will happen is that on the first result, observable gives me the ability to return the data result more than once, basically. Okay, so it means that if I'm wrapping it with the defer directives, once I implement it and I plan to do it, then I will get the first value with all the deferred as unresolved, as just undefined, and then once the promise will give me the result, I will just serve another result with the observer, basically. So I will just get the full answer back.
Okay. And so for that WebSocket transport, you also added, I guess you created another package that was RxJS diff or something, where you can basically pass in a diff, or you pass in an object, and then later you can pass in diffs, and on the other side you get an observable of that whole object with changes.
Yeah, I also, because we have observables, and at the moment the implementation is exactly what we need. So I did not add it essentially, but of course that once that people will start to use the subscriptions and the data will grow, then sending the whole result back is like wasteful. I already have an observable operator that I've written, which basically stream observable over network using diffs instead of raw data. And then what will happen is that once I just apply it, this is operator, so I can just apply it. So once I will sorry, I had some announcement and that confused me. So where was we?
You were talking about the operator, the diff operator.
Yeah. Okay, so once I just call the operator, what will happen is that instead of streaming the full packets, I will just get the diffs between them. So initially I will get a full result, and then incrementally I will start to get the patches until the observable reports that there will be no more data.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to kind of integrating the things that you have built into both Apollo client and Apollo server. And I don't think it's something we can do, just overnight. But it's definitely something that we're moving towards, and that we'll get to within a couple months at least. But it's always great to have a first prototype and see how the thing would work, because it's also much easier to explain to people. So I actually think you should, if that's something you like doing, you should write a blog post about it that we could put on the Apollo blog, just to ideally with, for example, a demo for defer. I think that would be the coolest thing, something that many people in the GraphQL community would be really excited to see.
All right, so basically testing is very important to me. So at the moment I am in a testing phase. I'm writing as much test as I can. I want to make sure that everything is working, and also I'm trying to ensure as much backward compatibility as possible. So this is also means that to change as less test as I can from the current package. So far it's been pretty well, and this is good. I hope that to finish with the tests and make sure to release it, and then after that I did plan to write a blog post as well.
Oh, that's great. Okay, I look forward to that. Xavier, are you still here?
Yeah, sorry, I'm still there.
Okay, do you want to tell us a little bit about the Meteor integration? I think a lot of us here don't actually know what the Meteor integration does exactly. So if you could give us a very brief overview of that, and then tell us kind of the state that it was in before this week, and the things that you did and the things that other people did on it.
So awesome. So let me brief you a little bit about the current state of the Meteor integration. So and let's get back a little back in the past when MDG created Apollo, but also created Meteor, and some folks it was kind of a wait, the current state in the Meteor community was Apollo integration will become official. It will be And many people were, oh, when will it be ready? We are waiting for it, blah, blah, blah. And in fact, I believe it's as like we see this contributor week, we see how the Apollo projects are evolving. Like it's something that is empowered by the community. We are in the contributor week. So the Meteor integration is something powered by the community. So the main maintainer of the project is Lauren. I'm just a contributor that plugged in and say, hey, I can do something. And this comes from a current state, like as a Meteor dev, moving a little around Europe, going to meetups and chatting with people around. Almost everyone tells me, hey, yeah, I use Meteor in my apps. I use Apollo in my Meteor apps, but I'm just rolling my own implementation. And well, I do too. But I took inspiration on the Meteor integration package. And I believe this package could become a reference on how to create, how to use Apollo in your Meteor apps on the current state of how Apollo is. And so it could be, on one hand, some kind of educational material, or if you just want to use it out of the box, just plug in the Meteor way, as it always has been, like easy to go and do this. So I may share my screen. So I've been working, like, because this community was kind of waiting, you see it in the forums, listening to the transmission podcast. I wanted to raise awareness about, guys, just give it a try. It's really not that hard to have Apollo in the Meteor app. And actually, it's like a few lines of code on both client side and server side. And we are just doing some little hacks to help you to do this. So I've created a code tour. What code tour is something to make a piece of code easy to understand and easier to contribute. So I'm just going to paste the link here. I don't know if it goes to the live chat too, and we'll paste it in Slack too. So if you want to read that, it's on codetools.xyz, and you will find it. It's a Meteor Apollo code tool. So what it does is just learn how to link Meteor and Apollo together. And the code tool is a piece of code next to explanations. And you can click on explanations that will highlight pieces of code. So it's like breaking down something into steps and breaking down further into smaller steps. And so I've broken the Meteor integration in 4 steps, starting by what are the dependencies, so client side and server side, so Apollo client, GraphQL. So in Meteor, in the Meteor integration, we use GraphQL server Express. So we need Express, we need body parser to parse the query. So just explaining step by steps how it's done, and then talking about the client side. So just try to maybe if I share my screen, it will be better. Do you see my screen, or do you see in a hangout? You see something?
Yes.
Yes, it was good. Okay, so this is the principle of highlighting some pieces of code, and so the what does the Meteor integration is configuring a lot of stuff for you, like so you don't have to do it. If you want to do it, you definitely can, but if you don't want to do it, you're not forced to do it. So and as far as I'm concerned, the part I really enjoy about this package, and it was my first integration when I stumbled upon it. It was like, how do you handle user accounts? Because the Meteor account system is often referred as magic. And well, in fact, if you just have a look in this box, it's just not that hard. And so just explaining what it does, how it's done. So at the moment, it's quite it's a draft. I'm not an English native, so I hope once we'll open a pull request on the code tool to say, hey, you may rephrase it like this or this. And so just breaking into parts, I invite you to come and read, and I've added some emojis to make it a little easier to read. But it's really like 100 line of code and 100 line of code, both client side and server side. It's really not that hard. And in the end, just a bunch of links to invite people to do it, and to use it, to fork it, to open issues on it, and more. So the goal is like more and more people are using this integration or looking at it. More and more people understand how it is to use Meteor and Apollo together. So more and more people have problems. So more and more contributors help them. We open pull requests. We have clearer docs. And yeah, people build awesome apps with Meteor and Apollo together. So that's cool. And cool. Yeah, you can just return Meteor Observer. Nice. Yeah, let's talk about this later.
Yeah.
But so yeah, that's and so the assumption I had about like many people don't use it was like 2 months ago, something like this. So maybe more and more people use it, and actually I've looked at Atmosphere, the package manager for Meteor. It was like top 10 download in late December, so that's awesome. But yeah, just wanted to make it move forward, and I've opened a few pull requests in the past week about, for instance, setting up a batching interface, so you can switch between classic network interface or batching interface. Someone opened a pull request about, hey, what about persisted queries? So yeah, maybe that would be awesome. So yeah, GraphQL subscriptions will, I don't know, like I know some people have used it with Vue. I'm personally using with React. I know people using it with Blaze also. So yeah, it's kind of Vue agnostic. It's just the main goal is plugging the accounts. In the end, it's just using the accounts and transferring the token. This is basically, and binding it to Meteor. So yeah, I invite you to have a check. There is an open issue on the repo, so it's at Apollo GraphQL / Meteor integration. There is an open issue about the code tool, so you can see the code tool, work through it. You also have access to the repos code tool, so you can make a pull request on it to modify, rephrase, enhance it. And I believe that I believe it didn't have many visibility, and this repo, especially this repo on the Apollo stack, and I hope the Meteor community will boost it. We'll have a Meteor boost. So,
yeah, that's great. So kind of to summarize, I guess the repository or Meteor integration helps you with it makes kind of setting up the Apollo server next to the Meteor server very automatic, or you can even run it on the same server as I think Connect middleware.
Exactly.
And then does it? So it'll make sure the right user is authenticated. Does it also? Does it make all the resolvers run in the Meteor context, so they have access to the collections?
Yeah, actually, it binds. So it uses two methods, like two stuff from the Meteor internals, which is the HTTP request handlers. So it's called web app. It's a core Meteor package, and also binder. So Meteor uses to make runs, to make not actions, but to make the stuff run concurrently. It uses fibers, and so it just grab your Express server, put it somehow in a fiber, and then attach it to your HTTP request handler. So this may be not the perfect summary of it, but so the main benefit is like when you run a resolver, you have access. You are running it inside it. You are running it inside a fiber, and so have the benefits of writing asynchronous code looking like synchronous code.
Okay, and for their view layer, how would people use it if they've set up the Meteor integration package? How do they query Apollo?
So you will need to use one of the nice integrations around. So React, Blaze, Vue, Angular too. So I don't know much about Angular, but I know some really smart people are working on it, and it seems to work great. The React one is really nice to use. It's my favorite one I use every day. And it's really easy. You use higher order components to wire up your classic components. And actually, there is another article that came out, I believe, yesterday about Recompose and using Apollo client. So this looked like really neat. So even a better way, or something that you may find comfortable to use with. You have a Vue integrations, which is working great too. I actually got my hand dirty first time on Vue fixing an issue on the Meteor integration. And I discovered Vue. It looks really nice. So if you want to use it, so I know the person that will maybe help you is Matteo Dem, is actually someone who contributed to Meteor, I know, years ago, like OrionJS, I believe it's called. So and he can help you. Now he seems to be in Vue, so it can help you or can speak with him. And yeah, on Blaze, I've never seen any project on Blaze with Apollo, but I know a smart company from Netherlands, Q42, is doing a lot of stuff with it. So it's surely be cool.
Okay, so you can basically use an Apollo server with Blaze.
Yeah.
Or like Apollo with Blaze.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have maybe like 10 more minutes, so I just first, well, I want to thank you for all your contributions. Also, those people who are just watching on YouTube. It was really nice to see how a lot of people just felt more empowered to make contributions, to file issues, make pull requests, or even just discuss on the Slack channel or in private with us the things that they found. One thing that I noticed was also that there seem to be more people who are actually trying things out in production or for an app that they at least really cared about. And so you're also seeing more issues on Apollo client, for example, with regards to the memory usage or the performance in certain corner cases. So just later, like just a couple days ago over the weekend, someone, I think Jesper, we filed an issue and said that memory was growing kind of without bounds when he was using polling. And so we tried really hard to figure out what was going on and kind of asked him to run things in different configurations. And it did seem that there was something there, but in the end, it like tried with different configurations and couldn't quite reproduce the bug. But it was actually a very nice thing to see that someone, you know, put in this effort to try to figure out what is going on and actually, you know, tried using Apollo client in sort of different scenarios or putting it under a stress test with just, for example, you know, setting up a page and running a subscription for 10 hours, or, you know, setting up an app that will just keep polling every 5 seconds for all eternity and seeing how Apollo client behaves. So that was one really interesting thing I thought this week. Then another thing that I was pretty happy about is I think John's colleague, Lewis, he said a couple weeks ago, or probably 2 weeks ago, that he was interested in helping us out with kind of fixing up the network interface and making sure the middleware and afterware would run correctly on a batched request. And he's been making good progress on that, and I think we're almost ready to merge that pull request. So that was something I was happy to see. And then what else? There's like a lot of things that if they just came to my mind, I could point them out. But if you're curious, you can just go and look at the kind of the pull requests that we closed recently on the repositories that you're interested in, or look at the current issues or the issues that we just recently closed and where there's been some discussion. I don't know if either Daniel or John, if you guys want to highlight something that you've seen. Maybe Daniel, can you give us a really short summary of what happened on subscriptions in the last week? Because I think Uri Uri finally merged his really, really large pull request. So can you give us a very brief overview of what that was?
Yeah, so one of the things that Yuri had been working on for a while was switching the WebSocket library to use native packages as much as possible. And so that was a long-running pull request that got merged in. And we've had a couple people that have started using it and helping us track down a few bugs with the initial release, which we've started looking at too and addressing, but seems to be working very well, and is really neat to see that package using native as much as possible.
Yeah, so this was switching from, I think, some kind of hobby implementation of the WebSocket RFC to the WS library, which is also used, I believe, by like Webpack for hot reloading and a bunch of other libraries. So it's, I think it's probably the WebSocket library with the most downloads. I also saw someone commenting and saying that, or asking if we would consider using micro WebSockets, so UWS, which on the face of it seems to have a better performance, but isn't quite as popular or doesn't have as many users as the WebSocket library that we're using right now. So what are your thoughts on that, Daniel?
So, I mean, I think ideally, making it easy for anyone to plug in the WebSocket server library that they'd want to use would be ideal. Thankfully, those two libraries have a fairly similar interface, and so adding that ability wouldn't be too hard. Additionally, as you mentioned, I think the WS package kind of has the mind share right now, so I think that's a good one to go with. But adding support similar to what you guys have done with GraphQL server to be able to allow that to easily plug into different frameworks, it would be the right direction to go moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I do plan, like when I wrote what I wrote now, I did it planning that once the standard WSocket will be released, then I can just release another flavor really, really easily that is using the nano WebSocket thingy, UWSocket or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. John, is there, do you have any updates about GraphQL tag or ESLint plugin, or kind of an outlook of what you?
Yeah, just a quick shout out to Jack Moore, who JTM. Let me just look at his tag. Anyway, Jack Moore, who's building out the Babel plugin for GraphQL so that we can pre-compile our GraphQL tag stuff so that you don't have to ship GQL to the client if you don't need to. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then Abby Ayer, who has been trying to slim down GraphQL tag and make it a little more portable.
So the goal there would be to kind of remove everything that's not essential to GraphQL tag and instead import that from other libraries?
Yeah. So it should reduce some size, and I think what it'll give them is that they can remove GraphQL tag, or that they don't need to ship that. And I think for Next, someone was mentioning that because there's no compilation step, by using Babel, they can take out the compilation step. So that was interesting.
That's really cool. Yeah. Okay, so we're almost at the end here, but I just wanted to mention one other sort of development that has been happening in parallel to Contributor Week, and that we're kind of something that we think is worth working towards with Apollo Client, and that's that right now we have essentially 3 separate clients. So we have Apollo Client, which is the JavaScript client. Then we have Apollo iOS, and we have Apollo Android. And right now, those are kind of developed relatively independently. So they share a lot of the concepts because, for example, GraphQL or Apollo iOS was inspired by Apollo Client. And so many of the concepts are very similar, and the store structure, the normalized store, is also like very, very similar. But because one is a compiled language and the other one isn't, the mechanics of how the clients work are somewhat different. And then Apollo Android is, even though it's called Apollo, it was only we only made sort of the first step in getting that started, and now the main contributions are actually coming from people at the New York Times and people at Airbnb, for example. And so one thing we're trying to do now is harmonize those three clients and kind of bring them as close together as we can in terms of the store implementation. And the motivation for that is that we want people to be able to develop apps in native iOS or native Android and React Native and use Apollo Client on both of those sides. So you can use Apollo Client in the native code and in your React Native code. And if you have an app that has views in both native code and React Native, the two clients should share the same store, and they should share the same, essentially, the network interface, or the thing that ends up executing the GraphQL queries. The advantage of that is that you get a consistent app, not just across your React Native views, but also across the boundary from React Native to native. So we've kind of started work in that direction. And the first step there is to abstract away the store. And we believe that will also give people a possibility to actually plug in different stores if they want to. So if anybody, wanted to persist actually some of the store data to disk, they could just write a different store interface against that API that we then expose for the store. It's not exactly a trivial undertaking, though, because right now our store is a Redux store, which means that every write to the store happens through an action. And we want to keep the Redux integration or the support for Redux in the future. So what we're trying to do now is abstract away the store in a way that the actions are actually dispatched as sort of from the store integration and not from the core of Apollo Client. But yeah, that's kind of what's going on now, and we're working with a few people who are using Apollo Client in production or ready to use it in production, and they have those use cases that I just mentioned with React Native and the native app. So yeah, so that's something we're excited about. Okay. So we have 5 more minutes. At the beginning of the week, we kind of promised that we would send out swag to everyone who contributed during this week, or who made a pull request, helped solve an issue, and yeah. So without, I guess, further ado, let me show the things that we have. I guess most of you have probably already seen these. So this here is an Apollo shirt. They just come in one color, as far as I can tell. So this, let me take the sticker off here. So here's just the Apollo logo in front, and the same thing on the back, kind of. So that's the Apollo shirt. Then we have 2 kinds of Ask Me About GraphQL shirts. So because we're all first and foremost fans of Apollo, but we're also promoters of GraphQL. So we made this shirt here. It's basically for when you're walking around at a conference and you want people to talk to you. This is probably a good shirt to wear if you want them to talk to you about GraphQL. On the back, it has the GraphQL logo here, and it has the Apollo logo on the other side.
Actually, like I met Martin. Sorry for misspelling the name at a conference this October in Europe, and he was just when came back from the GraphQL summit in San Francisco, and he was wearing this shirt, and everyone was like, "Where did you get this shirt? Where did you get this shirt?" And it was like, "Ask me about GraphQL." Maybe not these colors, but it was like the hit of the color.
This is if you don't want to be too flashy. If you really want people to notice you and you want them to ask you about GraphQL, you should get this shirt, which is the same thing but in pink. And I think this is, I believe this is the shirt that Martin was wearing. Definitely. So this is definitely attention grabbing. Also, the pink isn't completely random. It's kind of the GraphQL color, I guess. If you go to graphql.org, you'll see that the pink is the color. And that's actually also the reason why we made this darker shirt, because it used to be that we just had the pink shirt, but when you have a GraphQL conference, your background is going to be pink, and if you wear a pink shirt in front of a pink background, it doesn't look that great, so we also make these shirts. We also have stickers. I think this is just a normal sticker that you can stick on your laptop, for example. These two here are a little bit different because they actually peel off. So it makes the sticker look much nicer on your laptop because you don't have this like shiny background anymore. So you just stick it on and then you take off the top layer here. That will come off and it looks really nice. Unfortunately, like my laptop is in use right now for this broadcast. Otherwise, I would show you what it looks like on my laptop. Yeah, so I'll be posting a link to a Google Forms in the Contributor Week channel where you can basically put in your request for the swag that you want. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So even though Contributor Week is over, like I would say Contributor Week should just turn into Contributor Month or Contributor Year, because open source software never sleeps. So we'll just keep going, and we're always looking for more contributors, because like more people bring in more different ideas, they bring in different approaches. Everyone has different use cases, and it's incredibly valuable for the community to have people with different viewpoints and people who have different experiences who are trying to build different things with the technology that we develop together. And just having someone new join with use cases that you haven't seen before kind of makes you look at your technology from a different angle. So I just mentioned, for example, that we were trying to bring the three clients in Android, iOS, and JavaScript closer together, and that only happened because community members approached us and said, like, hey, we have this use case where we want to share the cache between native and iOS, or between React Native and, for example, iOS or Android. So really, like, the more people we have and the more different use cases we have, the stronger our community grows and the better our technology will be. So if you know anyone who would be interested in using Apollo or contributing to Apollo, make sure to let them know. And if there's ever anything where you feel like we could be doing more to cater to contributors, or we could be doing more to keep contributors happy, don't hesitate to let us know. You can also, if you're feeling like your pull request or your issue is not getting the attention that it deserves, just go on Slack, message me directly, and I don't always have time, but I always try to make the best effort to pay attention to your issue or your pull request as soon as I can, and like respond with something as thoughtful as I can muster at that time of day. Yeah. So that's pretty much it. Thanks for joining, guys, and I really hope to see you around in the next couple days, in the next couple of weeks. If you're ever in San Francisco, make sure to stop by MBG here. We're on 10th Street. Just come find us. Send me an email before though, or send me like a message on Slack, and you can join the whole team for lunch, or like we'll take you out to coffee, something like that. Yeah, that's really cool. And as always, like if you want to be more involved, but you don't know where to start, like don't hesitate to let me know, or let Sashka know, or let anyone else on our team know, because there's always things to do, and we're like really happy for every member, or we're really grateful for every member who joined our community. Yeah. All right, that's it for today. Thanks a lot for joining, and thanks for being here to make Contributor Week a success, be it by submitting pull requests, or reviewing pull requests, or discussing on issues, or trying to track down a bug. It's all really helpful, it's really valuable, and we really appreciate it. And we hope you'll stick around for the next time, or just in general.
Yeah,
right.
that was
Guys,
awesome.
have a great
Bye, thank you.
day.
See ya.